And he was the president of the Australian Archaeological Society. The president. Not like us, non-academics as we're called. He was the president. And yes, the Courier Mail did a story about him and slagged him off and said, but he only had 10 people in his group. 1939, how many full-time archaeologists do you think there were in Australia? Yeah, not many. I can tell you, Elkin was appointed the first professor of anthropology in Sydney Uni in 1939. First. That's the first posting in Australia. So the Courier Mail said, he's only got 10 people in his group, he must be a fake. Oh, give me a break, 10 people, that's about it. Oh, the second was, the family said he was a nutter and a mystic and a daydreamer. He was a mystic and he was a dreamer, but he certainly was a nutter. You'll hear some of the stuff he's done. But this is what he did. He went up there, they worked on it for about 8 months, and then in 1940, and how do I know this? Because I've got his letters. I've got his letters. I've got all 22 of his letters he wrote back to the guy that was working on this. 1940, the government came to the farmer's post, to their farm, and visited him. And the day after, the son, who I spoke to and got permission to go on his property, spoke to him 6 times, and he cried about this every time he did this, was told by his father to go out and destroy the mound. Not just that mound, but there are 10 acres of stone arrangements there. Some have 250 to 300 stones, and I've got drawings of some down here. I'll show you later. And he destroyed everything. He bulldozed all the small rocks, and then he picked up all the big rocks and took them to the dairy. He told me about it because he was the one who did it. And he gave me permission to do a 2 days archaeology on site because he wanted this fixed up. Every time he spoke about it, he also told me something very, very important. After he bulldozed all the rocks, knocked over and picked up the big ones away, his dad said, go up to that mound and destroy it. Bulldoze it down. And here's the point. They were the only people in the region who had earth-moving equipment. So they could do this. Jack told me, somebody told me this. We were told him we never gave up this location, and we haven't. He said he dropped the blade and he had this fear that if he actually pushed the blade into the earth, he would die. He's a staunch Roman Catholic. He told his father, Dad, I can't do this. I'm scared. If I did that, he said, don't be stupid, son, don't do it. He said, go and do it. He said, I'm not going to do it, Dad. The good news was Dad couldn't drive a tractor. So the mound stayed. But then here's the interesting part of the story. Jack then told me, he said, well, Jack, I know you've bulldozed the small rocks. What about the big ones? I think we've got pictures of the big ones there, haven't we?
Yes, we do.
Good, okay. He said, oh, those ones, we took them down to the dairy and we stacked them there. And I know that there were about 400 of them. I'm thinking, and I found out later, I thought, Jack, where did the cattle get in to get milk? They wouldn't have got in. Anyway, he said, then one day in the 1950s, someone came to our farm and during the night stole all the rocks. I remember the only thing he told me. I thought, when he told me, he always had his eyes down. I could never look him face to face when he said that. And I thought, Jack, why aren't you looking at me when you told me that? And I think to myself, hang on, you had earth-moving equipment. You pulled them up a really steep slope at 45 degrees and it's about 40 metres up. You pulled them down there, you stacked them there. You've got the only earth-moving equipment in the whole area until 1985. And someone came and took them from the dairy that night when the house is 50 metres from the dairy and you didn't hear it. You didn't hear the clunk as it fell onto the thing and they moved them out. And there were hundreds. It would have taken about 15 nights. That didn't make sense. We found them. They were dumped next to quarries and then buried for 75 years. And they got unearthed last year when a greedy developer wanted to sell them. So we know where they are. They were dumped. And the reason they were dumped, and he told me why they did this, and he was very open about this, because they thought the blackfellas were going to take the land off them. Well, they probably would have, because they had to. They've got to get over that. It's still an issue for them, isn't it, Evan? It's a big one. We're going through it now. You'll hear more about this later. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is how this starts. But now I want to give you, before we go any further, I want to give you a bit of a feel for this actual mound. I want to tell you some of the things that he said about this. And first of all, I need to explain to you, how was it he could read that mound? How could he read all the markings there? He's a white fella. How could he possibly do this? Well, luckily, we got a guy called Eric Bauer who did research on Slater, and we found out you won't find a record of him in any university in Australia. They've all been expunged. There was one paper we found that was stamped cancelled, and it's called Goddard and Slater. That's why it got across. But if you go to the microfiches in all the state libraries, you'll find a lot of stuff about him. He's in all of them. And we found in the Adelaide paper, wasn't it? Was it the Mail?
Yep, the Adelaide Mail, yep.
Not page 5 or something?
Yep.
A huge story about how he did it. And we've checked it out. It's legit. There's a lady called Eliza Dunlop. She was alive in the 1830s, and she was the wife of the first magistrate of the Wallamai, which is a darking mill, a very strong group. And she was so empathetic to original people. She wrote poetry, translated poetry that they did, wrote songs about them, and led a crusade against the Mile Creek Massacre first verdict, which was freedom, and fought against them and alienated so many white fellas. And we read where the chief, called Boney, I think his name was, wasn't it?
Yep.
Boney was a Boney, really liked her. And he took her aside and gave her the first language. You need to understand to begin with here, there still is a very first language that all of Aboriginal people over the whole of Australia could speak. You think there's 500 tribes that don't know how to communicate with one another. That's so wrong. That's what you've read about. That first language is still alive. There are speakers of it to this day. And what he had is, she did this, she compiled the whole thing, gave it to her daughter, and then it disappeared. And they gave it to Slater. There's a story in one of the papers there where he went to a site, where was it, Maruta?
Yeah, Maruta, yeah. They've been trying to decipher these engravings for years, I think he said, and
yeah.
He got there and deciphered them in 20 minutes.
20 minutes. They spent 20 years trying to work it out. In 20 minutes he told them the whole story. They stood back and said, my God, what is going on here? I've got to tell you something. If Slater was an idiot and a fake, you know what you need to read this manual? You need to be able to stand upright, read and breathe. Anyone could read it. Because all you've got to do is, oh, there's an engraving. That's that one. Turn it on. Oh, there's his. That's the answer. That's what it is. Because what the dictionary was every marking with what it meant. So all he had to do was just turn the pages over and read the damn thing. And he went all over Australia doing this. He was paid by the Australian government, he was paid by Manly Warringah Council, he was paid everywhere. He's not a nutter. He's not an idiot. In fact, in 1937, he spoke at the Sydney Anthropological Society and gave the keynote lecture. In 1939, he received an enthusiastic response from the Science Congress. We read this stuff. He was well known. And what they've said now is he's an idiot and fool because they want to dismiss the site. They want to dismiss the site. Okay, what did he say about the site? Number one, he claims it's the oldest temple on the planet, at least 40,000 years old. Secondly, it said contains all knowledge of what is now, and what will be. It is the beginning of everything. He believes it's the first statement that was ever made for humanity on how to live. And what I'm going to do now is, Evan, you're going to read some quotes that he made that were taken from that particular site there that he translated. And I want you to listen to the very first language. And I want you to remember one thing. If you look at the books, the first language is very basic. It's grunting, it's food, it's the very primitive things that get us going. Then we build up to the wonderful language we have today. That's what we're told. Have a listen to what the first language actually is.
Guided by truth, man came to earth through darkness, from the light of life that shines far off. Life came to earth as man with his senses, 7 of them, and was established in truth. God came in with light from darkness and gave man a soul, and the sons of man brought in with the light became the pillars of heaven. He who brought life into the world set down men and women and gave them the sacred means of propagating life.
Let's stop for a sec on a couple of those. First of all, I'm telling you now, if you listen to our teenagers today, you'll find the most used word they use is like. If you compare the language that you're hearing today and the content of today compared to what was there, that was the peak. This is the trough. It's not the other way around. We've been going backwards. This is how they spoke in the beginning. There's a couple of things in there that are very important. One was man came to earth with 7 senses fully developed. 7? Look at the books, 5. What are the other 2? The ones we lost. The ones that have been taken from us. The ones that the government right now don't want you to know about. This is all the same thing. Secondly, did you hear that statement that Slater said about the sacred means of propagating life? 1938. Sacred means of propagating life. That's genetics. That's not from 1930. That's what he was writing about. Let me tell you his paper. The paper he wrote was Burragurra, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Let me tell you what he wrote in there, and this is why he got slammed. This is why he got done in, and then we'll go through a couple of the pictures there. What he said was Bayami, which is a creator being. Bayami means to cut off a leg to create humanity. Mula Mula, the wife of Bayami, when they came here in a spaceship and landed, Mula Mula, it says in there, was not born of the earth. She was born from the stars above. It's written in there. That's what Slater wrote. Then Slater writes about the nameless one of his sons, who must have been a prophet because he despaired of the earth. He had a suspicion where this was going. And he went back, and his brother followed him. And the story about his brother followed him, and he said, "Don't come with me, I'm going away." Then he got into this tree that was straight, that mingled with the clouds. This is what he wrote. And a flame come from underneath. He went up to the Southern Cross. What he's talking about is Mula Mula, the nameless one, and Bayami, they're sky heroes. We don't call them gods, we call them sky heroes. They came from the sky. And they gave us the sacred means of propagating life. And you'll find the comment that's repeated the most is the words came to
earth.
Came to earth. He went too far. Slater went too far. This is before we even talk about aliens. Aliens turn up after the Second World War. He's talking about before then. Can you imagine? Wonder why his family thought he was a nutter. Can you imagine? I mean, come on, Kurima, get your act together. I mean, he's walking around talking like this, and his family's saying, "Jesus, keep away from him, please. He's no good to anyway. Let's just keep back." What are you talking about, you crazy man? He was talking about the first original truth, ladies and gentlemen.
Just to give you a bit of a rundown on how complex the language is, there's 10 elements, 16 letters of the alphabet, 7 sensory symbols, 21 parts of the body used as symbols, 38 symbols of the hands, 20 different forms of suffixes, and 100 or more other symbols in which animals, birds, etc.
And here's the beauty of this language. It's made up of 10 words, which we have. I'll show you a copy of it. I can't show everyone that. It's 10 words, and from those words you add suffixes and prefixes, then you break the word up. Now each of those 10 words have 4 meanings to begin with, and it adds and subtracts from that. According to Slater, his book, which was being published in England, by the way, he must be a nutter, had 28,000 words he compiled in the first language. White fellas tell me the first language was made of 200 words. No, we're getting back to 200 words. Honestly, we're going backwards all the time with our usage. We're going backwards all the time. This is when things were different. Okay, now we'll go through a few more of the slides before we talk too much and have some people start to fall asleep. Some of you need to understand fully, ladies and gentlemen, in the 1930s it was well known through the whole of Australia the Egyptians have been here. No one argued the point. And honestly, Sir Grafton Elliott Smith, the first Australian to get a Sir because of academia, we read an article, he said, "There's so much Egyptian stuff here, I can't believe it." He said, "It's everywhere." We know that Sir Ralph Salento looked at one, you'd have to say it's mummification, because that's exactly what it was, and he said it's no different to what was done in the 21st to 23rd dynasty in Egypt. Exactly the same. Even the bone tool that pulled them through the nose to brain is exactly the same one. And what they would do is row the body out 2 kilometres to be judged by a crocodile spirit, just like the Egyptians. The Egyptians, as Slater said, learnt their language from here. They learnt their hieroglyphs from here, and they learnt everything here and took it back to their country. This is the beginning of culture and civilization for the world, not just one place. Now, this is common. What you're seeing there is mummification. We know of at least 22 different forms of mummification in Australia that took place. The Egyptians loved the idea. They loved it, and that's why they went back and did it, because they thought this really works for us. Okay, so this is normal. You'll see this one here, came from Africa, Australia, our black ancestors, the birth of civilization, Elliot Smith's theory. Another one there, the stories and skulls, it's all about Egypt. There are about 15 articles we found. Go to the microfiches, they're everywhere. Go to the universities, you won't find any of them. There has been a complete cover-up in every academic institution in this country. And he has been one of the major. Well, we're doing pretty well now, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're sort of following his footsteps. We've got a long way to go, but a long way to go. Okay, so they're common. All right, let's go to the site now. Let's start to show you what's there. First of all, you've got shaped rocks. Now, shaped rocks, you might think, so what? What does that mean? First of all, a shaped rock If it was done old way, the way you think original people, when they had this stick and stone and bone technology toolkit, that's what they had for a while, but they had something before that. You've got to understand they had everything we've got today and threw it away. When you see them now, and they're naked, and they did this deliberately. It wasn't through ignorance, as some people do it, through enlightenment, because they knew this way, the way we go through, doesn't work on this planet. This is a high-octane spiritual planet that doesn't work well with technology. It's been there before, and every time it does, the place gets cleaned out. And get ready for a clean out. We're getting one now. Right, you're going to find this coarse-grained sandstone there, and this fine-grained sandstone, which is fascinating. This is a cold rock. There is no sandstone. According to Slater, and is correct, the closest deposit is Broken Head, which is 22 k's away. Now bear that in mind as we go through here, because you're going to see technology here that doesn't make sense. Notice here when you've got these sharp, by the way, you just walk around, they're everywhere. These rocks just lay on the ground because he bulldozed them into the ground, but they're just everywhere. There's hundreds of the smaller rocks. The bigger rocks, yeah, they were moved, but the smaller rocks were just dug into the ground. And the reason sandstone is important is where did the rocks come from? And they've been cut and shaped. And what with? What do they do that with? Because there's no percussion point there, so it's not rock on rock. Didn't cut with a bone. That's the point here. You're going to see technology all the way through. We look at it and we say, hey, we can do it today, but you tell me this mob couldn't do this. Yes, they could. They go, keep going, please, mate. Just keep going through. There's shape rocks everywhere. Every shape is different. Now, this is very important. That's a mound. Doesn't look very big, is it? It's 70 metres long and it's 5 metres high. And guess what it's made of? Sandstone, clay, and white and red sand, and none of it is local. Geologists have looked at it and said it's all exotic. There's 3,500 cubic metres of fill that was put on this paddock. Now, how do you get it there? Wheelbarrow? Not a lot of them. The problem is it's sand too. Sand. There's no sand there. Evan did a pit down here somewhere because we thought there could be sandstone further down. And he dug down 2 metres.
I dug a hole.
You did dug a hole, very nice hole. And by the way, they checked out your hole and looked at it, the investigation team. They said they couldn't even find where you put it. Good hole. We clean up when we finish our work. And that was supposed to be a sin to dig a hole in a paddock.
Surrounded by cows.
Surrounded by cows that were watching him. Anyway, we mapped it. You're seeing every rock there. And see those rocks I've marked are all sandstone. You go past that mound, you will not find another sandstone rock anywhere. It's not natural. Now see that big gap there? Way fella, archaeology. That was done in the 1980s. The local farmers came and dug a massive great hole, a chasm in that, and used it to put on their black soil because they could drive on it when it's wet and wouldn't get soggy. Because it's not belonged to there. They used it. And then there was pictures of them doing it, and they stopped doing it after they got caught. But they ruined the mound. They dug into it. They dug into it, made a mess, but they helped us a bit too. Next one, mate. Because there we found some more fascinating rocks on the ground again, and another one. And you can see, ladies and gentlemen, there are so many of them. There are hundreds and hundreds of these rocks. They are not natural. They've been shaped. And every shape has a meaning. Now, we were lucky. I want to tell you now, I'm going to digress a bit now. That's unusual for me.
Dear God.
When I get back?
I'll try.
Okay. I want to tell you how this started. It's very important you understand how we do this. When we decided we got permission to come onto this site, we had with us Kano, who's my boss. He gave you know him. This guy knows him very well. Met him quite a few times. And he came along, he ran the show. And we had about 25 volunteers. I think even my wife was part of it, weren't you? Yes. Yeah, thanks for backing me up. Okay, 25 volunteers. And then I went up to the elders and said, you mob can wait. And I told them something and they didn't really smile about it. I said, you do realise, if we don't get spirit sign, you're all going home. It's okay to get permission off the farm owner, but that's not who we had to get permission off. We had to get permission off the elders. The spirit's there. And what I'm going to tell you is a true story, because there were 8 people who saw this, and a lot of people say you're lying, but we're not. So Kano led the way, and he got up on the mound, and he said, I need sign. Without sign, we go home. And as he said that, he sung. And 2 hawks came out of the bush and circled around us. I thought, shit, that's not bad. I looked at Kano and said, He said, no, not enough. Oh, jeez, this is really making it hard. We're not going to be doing any work today. He kept singing. 3 more came out and joined him, and they circled over us. Now, I can tell you something about hawks. They are not flock animals, and you can't train them to come out of the bush and do this. And we've all got our mouths open because we're just thinking, what is going on here? I mean, we know this stuff is true, but when you see it, it sort of still has an impact. I looked at Carnell 5, and I thought, oh, God, what does he want? And then he kept singing, and when the 8th hawk appeared, and there were 8, they broke into 2 circles. Now, if you look at the mound, if you saw it at the start, there's a circle on one side, a circle on the other side, then there's a point between the 2. And it's a sign of infinity. And when the 8th bird came, he said, yes, that means the spirits are happy. He said, follow the hawk back. I said, what do you mean? He said, they'll take you back. And it did. I could see the shadow. You ever try to keep up with a hawk? It was 1.5 k's I had to run back. And the bloody thing stopped about 20 metres from where they were, and I thought, oh, now I can start walking. I was exhausted. I came back and told them, now we can go on site. So what that means is, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't get permission off the white bells, I never do, but I have to get permission from the spirits, or nothing will happen. And why did the hawks come? Because they wanted this to come out. Okay, where are we up to now? Back there. Ah, right, the mound. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you want to see technology? That is column of basalt. Can you see where the dirt was sitting in there? That's where the dirt was, that's where it's standing. Right? See the dirt there? That's where it's put in the ground, that's where it's standing. That's where Jack moved. And where was this found? The quarry hole is just over there. This was all, see that dirt there? It was filled in 1950. And in 2017, when someone bought the place, they got the same people to actually move the rocks. They were working on there doing the road. And they dug it up for him. That's where they buried him. And when we found out, the elders went to the real estate agent and said, oh, what are you doing? You're going to upset your superannuation. You're going to sell it for a superannuation.
You can sell them to landscapers and they crush it into gravel, or it ends up being used for garden borders or something.
So we complained. We said we want to come on and take these rocks. And do you know who backed us? No one. We asked the mayor, wouldn't come near us. We spoke to the state government, the federal government, couldn't give a bugger. Didn't care less. We had solicitors who told us straight out. We had people who were solicitors in that town who told us, yeah, Slater dumped them there and carried them over, put dirt over the top. I know that's true because the people who bought this block happened to be original people. And the first time they went there, they never saw those rocks. It was dug out. And the reason they went back is the first time they went there, they saw 12 of those stones standing up. The next time they were gone, they were sold. Now that stack there, there's about 180. It comes from the mound. Half have been sold. We can't get on. By the way, there's a legal writ on me. I can't go within 100 metres of the subdivision. I'll be put in jail, just for me alone. Very popular with mainstream.
And here's a sad thing. When we're doing it, we actually got a couple of mainstream archaeologists and geologists.
Eight were prepared to come on site and validate that that's not natural.
And, yeah.
We couldn't get on.
No.
We told them, we've got 3 from Southern Cross Union, will come on tomorrow. And in 10 minutes we'll tell you. And one of them told me straight away, for that deposit, there's no other rocks anywhere, it's impossible. Column of basalt forms in what's called like dams, and they have large rocks and smaller rocks and smaller rocks. It's sort of like a common thing, and I've been to deposits like that. That is not a column of basalt deposit, it's on the top of a hill. It can't be. It was dumped there. Those are the rocks. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about something. That's what it looks like inside. See that patina there? That tells me it's been exposed for a long period of time. It's been exposed. That's the patina is so thick. I thought it was sandstone to begin with because it looks so much like it. And then you've got this stuff here with quartz inside it, and it is so heavy. Those rocks I was showing you, some of them weigh 10 tons. On the farm alongside, they took 6 of those rocks away, very happy to put them back, and they're above the ceiling. They're at least 3 metres. I don't know if we've got... Have we got a picture of one of them? We might.
I'm scrolling
not sure.
Through.
And then you've got the smaller ones there. Now, go back to the first picture. Look what's happened there. That's how they were.
That's how it was.
That's how it was, and that's what they've done to them. That's when half of them got sold. They stacked them up ready to sell the rest. Now, all the way along, I can't go on the property at all and do a thing about it. And nobody, if I did, I'd be arrested for trying to save the place. So he could sell it. By the way, legally you have to have a license to sell basalt, and he doesn't have that license. I told him that. Do you think that would stop him? No, didn't care. Leave him alone. Let him do what he wants to do. Okay, so that's what we have now. Oh, right, that's what we're up to next.
Yep.
Okay. What, have we got a clock here?
We are...
10:30.
So we got half.
35.
Right. I did say to Evan at this stage I had no idea what was coming next. It was quite interesting. It was going to be fun for me too. Because what we did with the first two, and I said, oh, that'll do. We'll just put some others up just in case. We actually thought we'd talk for an hour and a half, so we would have actually done it properly, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
That's okay, but all right. So now I'm going to take you somewhere else. Anyone here heard of the Gloucester glyphs? I've got a few of you here. Okay, good. All right, didn't want to go there. Wasn't interested. I remember when we were asked if we wanted to go there by a senior park ranger who didn't get permission from the original people to go there, did he?
Yeah, no, he didn't.
No, Arnie Bird wasn't happy. And then we found out, hey, we thought we got permission. So we don't care about the whitefella permission, but the blackfella permission is so important because it's their land, it's their site. I have to get permission off him. Anyway, when we got there, I didn't want to do it because there are so many stories about that. It was done by a deranged Czech, done by Sydney Uni students, done by hippies.
Done by the son of a famous local comedian.
That's right. Spike Milligan's son did it. Oh, what about the grieving World War I veteran?
Yeah, for his mates.
And the best part is that every one of these people who did it, there's no stat there, no name. Okay? No name. Just they did it. But it couldn't be done by anyone else. Let me very quickly go through each of those stories individually. The first one, the deranged Czech. 1975, we're supposed to have gone in between the walls there and started doing this. Now I can tell you something for sure. I spoke to the senior park ranger, original park ranger there, and he told me that National Parks and Wildlife didn't find out about this place in 1982 like they said. That's a lie. They found out about it in 1978. They knew about it then. And they kept it secret for 5 years and didn't tell the secret. Anyone, this is normal for this mob. And I know this because he was there. And he told me about the woman, a person, a ranger that was actually given the job of destroying the site. At one stage they were going to ask the Commonwealth Government to use it as an artillery range. She was given a slush fund to destroy the site. Bless her. She was going to make a public statement last year, at the end of last year, and tell the truth. And her husband left her because she didn't. Because she was going to tell everyone, this is a beat up. I was given money to destroy the site and I wouldn't do it. And they kept saying, what are you doing? I'm about to do something. And finally it got out into mainstream and they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. So the stories come out. Number one, a deranged Czech. He came here in 1970.